Tell me if any of these sound familiar. Why does the USA have 3 races? US Formula 1 fans aren't real fans. The US doesn't deserve 1 race, let alone 3 races. These are all real comments that I've had in my comment section before. If you don't believe me, go look. So why does the US have 3 Formula 1 races? Well, today I'm going to answer that question, why I believe the US deserves the 3 races that they get, and here's the factors. Of course, all this is being exemplified by the fact that the Miami Grand Prix was just extended to 2041, and it's looking like Italy, the only other country that has multiple F1 races, is about to lose one of their races, as Imola has not yet been renewed. So why does the US deserve 3 F1 races? Well, the most direct comparison that you can make to anything is Europe. If you look at this map here, you can see that I've overlaid the US over Europe. This is the best I could do. I know it's pretty crude, but just go with me here. This is how I can make it as accurate as possible, even though it's not the most HD thing you've ever seen. Now I'm going to drop in the 3 races in the United States location. Now watch as I populate in all of the European races. You can see how close in comparison the European races are in proximity to one another to the proximity of the United States races. Some of us are visual learners. I'm more of a numbers guy, so let me give you some numbers to support this. The EU is approximately 1.7 million square miles, while the US is approximately 3.8 million square miles, which is over double the size. But Europe hosts 9 races, while America only hosts 3. And also because of this, the distances between F1 races are much larger. Here's some examples for you. The 2 closest F1 races in America is Austin to Las Vegas. That's over 1,000 miles. That's 1,060 miles. Miami to Austin is 1,300 miles, and Miami to Las Vegas is 2,175 miles away, line of sight. Let's compare that to some in Europe. Now, you could have so many variations of this, but here's a few. Imola to Monaco, 310 miles. Monaco to Barcelona, 410 miles. Spa to Silverstone, 310 miles. Budapest to Zandvoort, 745 miles. And Barcelona to Austria, 840 miles. There's plenty more, like I said, that you can do, but in Europe, you can almost drive in a day to go in between these 2 races. If they're back to back, it's feasible to do a doubleheader. In America, not really the case. Now, I want to go ahead and acknowledge the fact that yes, there is a Canadian Grand Prix and a Mexico City Grand Prix, but if you added in their populations and landmass size, that would actually bloat the numbers and make it more of an outlier, so I've left that out. I've also left out Baku and any of the Middle Eastern races for a similar reason. Also, let's just talk as F1 fans here. The 3 tracks in the US could not be more different. COTA is a really awesome track, and having been to it, it has elements from different tracks all over. They have like a Maggots and Beckett's section. The back straight offers incredible overtaking and side-by-side action through 12 through 15. And overall is a fantastic track. I don't think anybody can argue that that track has given great action over the years. Now let's talk about the 2 races that people like to complain about, which is Miami and Las Vegas. And listen, I get it. And let me tell you, as a true F1 fan, I don't like the pomp and circumstance that goes on at these races either. I did not enjoy the driver intro from Miami from a couple years ago. I didn't enjoy the F1 Live Las Vegas launch that they did the first year. That's not for me. That's for all these celebrities that show up to this race. That pomp and circumstance, not for me, not for a true F1 fan. I can guarantee you that. Also, yes, there is crossover between a true F1 fan and people that love celebrities, I know, but I'm just saying in general, people that are there for the race are not there for that. Miami has this reputation of being like the cringy Grand Prix, but honestly, go back and watch the races and have a blind eye to what race you're watching. Just watch it as an F1 fan. In 2022, we had Max Verstappen come from way back and win the race and kind of like put Checo's career away. In 2024, we had Lando win his first race, and this year in 2025, we had an amazing sprint race in rain and mixed conditions. We had a great opening 20 laps of the real race and exciting qualifying. Kimi Antonelli getting his first qualifying. Any of that, if you put that on any other race weekend, that would be dubbed a good race weekend. Let's talk about Las Vegas. Everybody thought Vegas was going to have terrible overtakes and there weren't going to be any action, but it turned out to be an incredibly banger race the first year, and the second year was great as well. Lewis Hamilton went from 10th to 2nd. Mercedes got a 1-2, which was a big surprise given the changeable conditions and how it was cool and all that stuff. So I genuinely believe all 3 of these tracks offer something different, and I think they have a place on the calendar, all 3 of them. And speaking of the elephant in the room, let's talk about the race calendar. Do I believe that these 3 races deserve to boot a track off the calendar like Spa? No, absolutely not. As a true F1 fan, I definitely do not want Spa off the calendar. I don't know anybody that would want that. Do I think it deserves to be on a rotational basis? No, I think the original F1 tracks that were on the calendar for long before any of these other countries were involved deserve to stay on perpetually. Even the Monaco Grand Prix, which has its own set of problems, but I, as a fan, am upset that they're considering rotating these tracks, but obviously something has to give. So where does Imola fall? Well, if we're being honest with ourselves, Imola hasn't been on the calendar permanently all of the time, and because of the relation to other races like Imola to Monaco, as I mentioned, and others, I think it maybe is the one track that's going to have to lose its place. I hear you, Italian fans. I know that you want that race, and I'm not saying I want it to lose its place on the calendar. In fact, I think there's other races that probably shouldn't be on it in comparison. Qatar comes to mind, like a track that no one seems to like, and others. So, but also I kind of feel like the calendar should just stay the way that it is now. I'm already preparing myself because genuinely, if you already have a problem with the US having 3 races, you better buckle up, because I'm anticipating a 4th race at some point, because other factors like viewership in the US is going up, merchandise sales is going up. The amount of women watching Formula One is huge in America. So, and that's something that advertisers love. So, and Formula Academy is growing in popularity, and that's really popular in America. So, and F1 built a whole headquarters in Las Vegas and footed the bill for a Vegas F1 race. So something has to give here. And I think that is either going to be a race losing its position on the calendar or this rotational thing, which I'm not in support of. And finally, I want to touch on a subject that's really near and dear to my heart, which is respect. I think Formula One is the greatest sport in the world. And the reason that I believe that is because it brings all these people from all these different walks of life all together. Now you can compare this to soccer as well, but for me, Formula One is what does it, but these are very comparable things. But also, I just think it should be a sport that's welcoming to other people. But at the same time, you have all these people saying, oh, the US fans aren't real fans, the Drive to Survive isn't a real way to get into the sport. Well, everybody had to get in and know nothing about the sport eventually, even if you're the son of a grandfather, of a great-grandfather that watched F1. When you were born, you didn't inherently have a Formula One fandom. No, you grew it on your own. And while I personally watched Drive to Survive after having already started watching Formula One, I think it's a completely valid way to start watching the sport, and I don't think anybody should question how you get into it. Now, devil's advocate here, I also understand people that they watch Turn Race and think they're an expert, and that would bother me. I think the perfect analogy is the National Football League, or NFL in America, is expanding out into other countries. And if suddenly one person goes to a random American football game and finds that they like it, and then they suddenly think, oh, Deflategate, that's a thing that happened in American sports. Oh, I'm an expert on that now. Like, no, like I wasn't watching Formula One in 2008, so I'm not an expert on Crashgate, and I know enough to talk about it, but I'm definitely not going to weigh in on, oh, I'm the expert on Crashgate. Now, you want to get into Abu Dhabi 2021, we can talk about that. But anyway, it all adds up to the reason why Formula One has 3 races in America. And if you think of it as landmass, and if you think about every state would be kind of like the European Union, where, you can kind of go freely in between them and all that stuff. If you look at it like that, then it's very similar. That doesn't mean that the US deserves 9 or 10 races. I'm not saying that, because obviously I wouldn't want the NFL to suddenly move all of their games over to Europe. Like, that would be the equivalent. Basically, what I'm saying is just be open to the idea that the US can have multiple races, and rather than argue, hey, these fans don't deserve to have these races, maybe argue, hey, Spa deserves to stay on the calendar, Imola deserves to stay on the calendar, and here's why. That's just my 2 cents. Those are the numbers that I found. Tell me what you think in the comments, and please share this video. My goal in F1 is to make just an inclusive community where everybody can just talk about the sport, and maybe rage from time to time when Carlos Sainz hits Lewis Hamilton at the last turn in Miami. So that's about it. Please subscribe, like, and follow at the Pitwall Pod, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.